Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann, and it's just me. And I want to talk to you about a situation with a very popular band right now called Turnstile. If you don't know, they're kind of like chillcore meets punk. They've been around for a number of years. I've been listening to them for 4 full fucking album cycles now. But you may know them from their most recent album, Never Enough. Before that was Glow On. Before that was Time and Space. And prior to that was Non-Stop Feeling. That's when I first got on board. I've always liked this band for being punky and hardcore, but having chill, cool vibes. Somewhere between like regular hardcore and Sublime meets in the middle for me. And, you know, the reason I want to talk about them is because they have been in the news for a not great reason, and that is that their former guitarist, Brady Ebert, was arrested in their home state of Maryland for attempted murder.
God damn!
And to give you the 411 on that, he basically showed up at the house of the singer Brendan Yates' family. And this involves his sister, who was there with her husband and their child. And some words were exchanged between the husband and Brady, the former guitarist. And then Brendan Yates' dad, who's an elderly man, tries to get involved. And then Brady tries to dip out, but ends up running over Mr. Yates' legs in the process of trying to run him over with his car. And the interesting thing about this is he claims it's self-defense. He sounds fucking nuts. He basically got bounced out of Turnstile in 2022 because they said they noticed, quote, a consistent pattern of harmful behavior affecting himself, the band, and the community, meaning the punk rock community, music community. After exhausting every available resource to support his access to help and recovery, a boundary ultimately had to be set when healthy communication was no longer possible and he began threatening violence. So they kicked his ass out because he was talking crazy. In the years since, his baseless tirades have continued in public. We've never addressed it. We choose to protect his privacy and the circumstances around his departure, even when he did nothing to be deserving of that protection. Over the past few months, his threats only escalated further. This past week, that violence led to a physical attack when Brady went to the house of Brendan's parents and used his vehicle to run over Brendan's father, causing severe physical trauma. The guy needed surgery on his legs. I don't know how bad. I don't know if they had to stick a bunch of hardware in, but he got fucked up. We're grateful that Mr. Yates survived. He's 79, so he's already close to death anyway. I'm sure this is only going to fucking exacerbate things and speed that up, but bare minimum, I don't foresee him winning any dance contests anytime soon. The band's statement continues. Having successfully undergone surgery, we're hoping for the best possible outcome in Mr. Yates' recovery. We have no language left for Brady. Please respect our privacy at this time.
What's the significance?
So, Brady had been in a new band called The Set. And they thought that he was apparently being a dickhead and not worth keeping around, so they bounced him out. That was in February, after he had made some inflammatory comments about his previous band, Turnstile, and they had had enough. So then they kicked him out and released a statement. And that reads, Brady Ebert, no longer a member of the band, will not stand by his ridiculous comments and behavior towards a member of our band and our community. We'll continue to put on for Baltimore hardcore and thank everyone for their support. So just to you understanding this timeline, he gets kicked out of Turnstile. And then years later, he starts a new band. And he got bounced out for being a crazy asshole, right? And through all of this, you know, Turnstile talked about how they had issues with him and he wouldn't shut the fuck up. And it just kept going. And it seemed like his mental health was spiraling while his drug use was continuing and growing. And they tried to get some help in 2022 when they were kicking him out of the band. They tried to get the courts to issue a restraining order. The drummer, specifically Daniel Fang, tried to file a peace order, it's a form of restraining order, against Mr. Ebert, and the judge shot it down, stating that there was no statutory basis for relief, meaning insufficient evidence. So because it didn't meet the legal requirements, they couldn't forcefully keep him away through the courts. And then Ebert commented about it on social media, claiming his, quote, friends filed it, and they brought lawyers, and then he showed up alone and won the case. The guy is fucking delusional. Just like he said to the courts that he was attacked, and then running over an elderly man with his car was self-defense. He's sitting here in the past claiming that everybody else is the problem, not him. And he just gets more bitter after that. Once 2022 was over and he was kicked out, their fame grew exponentially. Like, they were already popular, but holy shit did they become way more popular. And all of this is during the album cycle for Glow On. That's their third major label release. And initially, when he got shit canned, they passed it off like they were parting ways. They tried to be amicable, and then he kind of kept it to himself. And then sometime shortly thereafter, the restraining order attempt happened, and that got shot down. And then over the years, he's just been growing more and more bitter. It's just interesting to me that a band with this high of a profile was not allowed, with all the increasing behavior, to make a better case to try to keep him away. But what was going on that this many people thought this guy was so fucked up, and the courts didn't try harder to listen to them or take any action? It's a failing of the system. Because if somebody would have taken it more seriously earlier on, like 3.5, 4 years ago, he probably would have been forced to get some help, and then none of the calamity that ensued would have gone down the same way. But like in many cases, nobody believed the people that were claiming what they were claiming, and he just kept on. And then he tried to start some new professional endeavors while still being bitter and talking shit. And then where it came to a head was recently in February. He was in that band, The Set, and he had started this band. And they were about to release an EP, and they kicked him out because he was talking shit about his former band, Turnstile, saying that their politics are performative, they don't really hate ICE, they're just riding the wave of popularity of what the kids are into right now to get more money, and that they played a free show, and that they'd made $10K from it, and the singer had kiped $4,000 of that, claiming it was for merch rather than donating the full $10K to the cause they had totally set up to receive it all. And that's what led to his second band, The Set, cutting him loose. And then he somehow immediately finds more people that are willing to work with him. I don't know how. That band is called Experience, and he was playing with them, and they're getting ready to put some shit out. And then this attempted murder charge hits, and originally they were like, oh, well, we don't know what's going on. We want to wait and find out the facts. He's still a part of the band. And then, like, the next day, they're like, nah, never mind. Bye, Felicia, and they fire him. But none of these other band members disliked him enough or were scared enough to try to file any sort of court order to restrain him from contacting them. So then it makes me look back at his first band, Turnstile. If he was growing ever more concerning in behavior and tone, why didn't they make another attempt to get the court involved? Because this guy was just bitter and holding on to all of his anger from years ago, and he watched them get more famous and basically get rich from it. And their punk rock scene and hardcore scene darlings, they're basically like royalty in terms of Baltimore area hardcore punk. And he's just the guy that got jettisoned from the band that is all pissed off of how it went down and wants to get back at them. And I get that. He's a little butthurt, but at some point, do you not let that go? Do you not maybe stop spiraling? But again, they talked about his drug use has been a problem. These other bands have talked about his drug use being a problem. And I couldn't help but notice the parallels between his spiral and my ex,
The Beast.
Where over the span of the last 8 years, he just, methamphetamine, abusive boyfriend. She lost her half of the joint custody. I have full custody of our daughters. And then you thought she'd get her shit together, and then she basically lied for years about not being on drugs still. She was only sober, to her own admission, for about 3 months. And I'm going to cover that all very soon because it's been a long year, and I've been holding off, and I'm sick of kicking the can down the road because she's gone off the rails, and she's under watch by the court. I don't mean custody-wise, and I don't mean CPS-wise. I mean right now she's under civil commitment and is on her way to becoming a ward to the state if she doesn't clean up her act. But more drugs, more chicanery, not working, lost her house, the whole 9 yards, and she's still bitter at me and thinks that she's this victim. And I see that Brady Ebert basically feels the same way. Like, his own behavior and deteriorating mental health state and drug use led to him being kicked out of 3 different bands. But, I mean, I enjoyed his work. He was a good guitarist. But you can find another guitarist, especially if the one you have now causes drama and seems like he's going to hurt people or he makes you uncomfortable because he's possibly dangerous. I would have bounced his ass out too. Kind of makes me think about when David Lee Roth parted ways with Van Halen, and then they replaced him with Sammy Hagar, who fucking sucks, in my opinion. But anyways, it was an acrimonious split, but nobody tried to fucking kill one another. I mean, the only band I can think of where there was murder between former members is infamous black metal band Mayhem, who had their guitarist Euronymous murdered by their bassist Varg Vikernes, and then don't forget the fact that their vocalist, Dead, killed himself, and that was before the murder thing, just, for chronological sake. And if you want to see the story summed up in the most simplistic form, I encourage you to seek out the movie Lords of Chaos. I don't know where you're going to find it. I watched it on Hulu. I know it's not on there anymore, but Lords of Chaos, definitely see that movie.
We're there, dude.
Now, turning back to talk of Brady Ebert, let me play armchair lawyer here and guess where this is going to go. He's not going to get the attempted murder charge. He will end up having to cop a plea to an attempted criminal vehicular manslaughter charge because it was in the heat of the moment. I don't think he planned to go over there and run anybody over, but the guy can't control himself. So in the heat of the moment or a crime of passion, he tried to run the guy over, and that's where the attempted criminal vehicular manslaughter charge holds water. It will be interesting to see what his sentence is, because I've done my research on this, and it says that the penalties range from 3 to 10 years in prison. Common charges include gross negligence, that's up to 10 years, or criminal negligence, up to 3 years. Gross negligence is a felony, and attempted vehicular manslaughter is a serious felony. The attempt based upon negligence could be seen only as a misdemeanor. That's the up to 3 years in prison or a $5,000 fine. If he was under the influence, that's going to bump it up to a felony. And the guy has drug problems, so I have to imagine that he will definitely get hit with the gross negligence because he wasn't trying to get away like he made it sound. No one was attacking him like he tried to pass it off as. He straight up hit this motherfucker and was probably high on drugs. And when he talks, he sounds like somebody who's done so many drugs that their brain doesn't function. And that takes us back to
the Beast,
who always has these grandiose explanations as to why she's the victim and everybody's trying to do her in and she should get some lackadaisical amount of penalty or sympathy that she doesn't deserve. And it drives me fucking nuts. Fame is intoxicating. So this guy had it, and then he lost it, and he couldn't shut his mouth, and he kept being pissed off. And then, Turnstile finally gets their flowers. They win a Grammy this year. And just as that is happening, he goes out of his way to release his photo with his new band, like, oh, look at me, look at how good I'm doing. Like that jealous ex who can't stop taking pictures with their slew of new boyfriends or slew of new girlfriends to try to make the one ex they can't get over feel like shit, going out of their way to make it public, and I'm so happy, and things are so great, and I'm so awesome. That's what this dude is. He's fucking emotionally immature. He's got mental health problems. He's got some sort of martyr complex. And frankly, the drugs have burnt out some synapses. So even if he goes to prison and he dries out from drugs and alcohol, there's going to be permanent brain damage. Like, it can only repair itself, the human mind, so much. So Turnstile will continue to kick ass, and this will be a chapter in what eventually becomes Behind the Music or something, if they do some documentary about the band going forward. I wish there was more meat and potatoes to this, but he's awaiting trial, so maybe I'll do an update. But I just want to say that if you learn anything from this story, it's that you got to be careful who you get involved with, because no matter how much you think you know them and how much you like them, if you're both working together towards a goal in a project and there's some success and they're an issue and you got to cut them loose, be prepared for them to not walk away quietly. This band fucking kicks ass. They seem like decent people. He can claim they were doing this or doing that with charity money, but until I see some proof, it's just shit talk from a bitter former member who doesn't know how to just walk away. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann, and that's the end.